We are in Ayodhya, one of the most enigmatic cities on earth. Nobody realizes the depth of this enigma. Many claim that here Manu, the father of humanity, from the perspective of Hinduism, this is where he appeared. This is also where the god Rama, he emerged from a fire and came to inhabit Ayodhya. This was the only synarchy that ever existed in the history of the earth. Little is known about it. Also, 5 of the 24 Tirthankaras lived here in Ayodhya, but many scholars say that it didn't happen in Ayodhya. Why the confusion? Because they forget to observe what the Mahabharata explains, what the Srimad Bhagavatam explains, that there is an earthly Ayodhya and another city also called Ayodhya in a parallel reality, in a parallel universe to ours. One day we will know more about this enigma.
We live in a world in which what we perceive as our reality has been translated in many different ways throughout our history. Our ancestors' vision of reality is not the same as the one we have today. What we observe as space-time, the internal environment of a simulated reality that we may now call the Matrix. Back then, many thousands of years ago, 6, 7, 9, 10,000 years ago, our ancestors observed the sky the same way we do today. But they used to see sparkling, luminous dots that were growing in broad daylight, that approached Earth's surface, and among trees, woods, forests, beings appeared that had nothing of human about them. They came to exist on the Earth's surface together with humans, with other hybrid beings that also existed here at that time. Try to envision this in our current time. This kind of reality, this is the great difficulty, the impasse that our intellect has, because we've read many epic books about this. Stage of human history about this reality. And when we compare what we read in these ancient books with the reality we see today, there is a very big difference. And this difference can be summed up in a very simple aspect. There is a universe neighboring ours, which most scientists today no longer discuss whether or not it exists. There is already a scientific consensus that there is indeed an anti-universe, that is, an anti-material universe that was born together with ours. It was born together with ours at the moment of the Big Bang, which produced matter and antimatter, but that's another story. And it is from this neighboring universe that these beings flow via portals that were once open But since the year 2012, most of these portals between these two universes have been closed, and the easy transit that once existed no longer exists in the same terms. This is what we're going to start talking about here with you, so that we can think together on these old panels, which are difficult to understand, except if we dedicate ourselves to reading these ancient books. And here I mean the Ramayana, which is one of these strange books. Throughout history, religion, science, and philosophy have classified these enigmatic books, documenting human lineage, as mythological books. Not true, something invented. And this is where our reflection needs to be adult, beyond these certainties. Wrongly established by other humans who weren't sure of what they were doing, but acted as if they owned the truth. And today, much of an ancestral truth has been canceled. And to us, it seems like a story from another world, crazy stories. They're not. The Ramayana talks about a time when here on earth there was a reign, a kind of synarchy, whose focus, whose headquarter is precisely this city, Ayodhya, which, fully thriving with life in India, presently as a terrestrial town, shows only traces that are not easily understood or noticed of another celestial Ayodhya that existed in this neighboring universe. And where Ayodhya is today, here in India, a bridge linking celestial Ayodhya to physical Ayodhya, at that time it existed. What time? That ancient time when the king of that region, called Maharaja Janaka, had a daughter called Sita, who was born from a lotus flower. Beautiful. And since Janaka possessed the bow of Shiva, organized a gathering where individuals interested in marrying Sita could sign up to try to draw Shiva's bow. And this is where Rama, son of Dasaratha, who was the king of Ayodhya at the time, Rama then, when he was only 14 years old, he accomplishes the impressive task of successfully drawing and ultimately breaking Shiva's bow. And that's how Rama and Sita come together in a plot, a life script that would later be described in the Ramayana. And that's what we're going to talk about. A whole series of events that took place in heavenly Ayodhya and also in earthly Ayodhya, because Rama, after his father Dasaratha left, he became the king of Ayodhya and introduced a universal synarchy on earth. And why universal? Because Rama was the greatest representative, the greatest avatar of an entire structure that existed in this neighboring universe called Trimurti and its aristocracy. And if Rama was the greatest of them all, earthly Ayodhya and heavenly Ayodhya were the center of all universal creation, considering the two universes, the material and the anti-material one. Thus began the story of Rama and Sita. We are here at the Sarayu River, at the point where Rama and the entire population of Ayodhya practiced samadhi. Here we have the figure of Sita portrayed in graphic art. On the other side, Hanuman, a very important hero who helped Rama rescue his wife Sita. And over there a panel showing at the waters of the Sarayu River, Rama and the people
of Ayodhya, all in the state
of Samadhi. Sita, wife of the god Rama, on the other side of the tent appears the figure of Hanuman, a monkey, a hero who helped the god Rama free his wife Sita from the hands of Ravana. A little further, a mural which depicts the entire population of Ayodhya and the god Rama in the middle of the waters, practicing samadhi and ending their experience here on earth. Sita and Rama became the center, the focus of devotion, of joy, of love, of the hybrid beings that existed at the time, strange beings, even for our logic, because here we are talking about certain animals that today we see as irrational, but whose ancestry humanity will one day better understand. That ancestry would have come from laboratories in this neighboring universe, and therefore intelligent apes talking existed at that time, and Sugriva was the king of all these monkeys and had several ministers in his reign, while Rama was the emperor of an entire existential context. Rama was not only king, so to speak, the emperor of humans, he was of all of this. I gave the example of the monkeys just to illustrate what is described in the Ramayana. However, within the intrigues of the time, and Rama had other brothers, one of them called Bharata, and as we'll see ahead, Rama leaves the scene at some point because he practices samadhi to leave this world, and Bharata continues to exist, and it is in Bharata's descendants that the Dravidians, the Hindus, and therefore the Mahabharata, which we will also study in the future in other documentaries, videos, and books, is exactly the story of Bharata's descent, and Bharata was Rama's brother, married to Sita. And in the midst of the palace intrigues, the Ramayana tells us that Rama and Sita, due to misunderstanding, due to the issue of the honor of the time, so it was established, so it should be fulfilled, also due to palace intrigues, let's put it like that, Rama and Sita had to serve in exile in the forest. Rama left his position as the monarch, and the entire population of both Ayodhyas became very sad. And a distancing began to take place between these Ayodhyas, the two of them, the celestial city of the neighboring universe, and the human one, the earthly one, full of beings that had nothing of human about them. And it's here another existential lineage comes into play. Difficult for us to understand, which would be the Rakshasas. And through a series of events that seemed coincidental, but which obeyed a strange synchronicity, these Rakshasas kidnap Sita and take her to the south of India. Ayodhya is in the north, in the state of Uttar Pradesh. They took Sita to the south of India because at that time the current island of Sri Lanka, before it wasn't an island, it was just an extension of the Hindu mainland, and the kingdom of Ravana, king of the Rakshasas, was located there, and Sita was taken there. It is from this perspective that Rama dedicates his entire life to trying to find out where Sita was, and this is one of the central themes of the Ramayana. The Ramayana therefore speaks or presents a narrative that is difficult for current knowledge to accept, because in its pages numerous species appear that show traits of rationality, and today on Earth only we humans have these traits, but back then it wasn't quite like that. So Rama and some around them, desperately trying to find Sita, were helped by one of the ministers of the monkey king Sugriva. This minister was called Hanuman. And then there's a whole story in which they managed to cross this somewhat swampy region that still at that time united the Indian mainland of what today would be two separate parts, the Indian mainland and the island of Sri Lanka, which is the former Ceylon. The Ramayana describes how Rama, with the help of Hanuman and many others, heroes and heroines, managed to get Sita back. And so Rama and Sita returned to Ayodhya. Here is the beginning of another part of the drama of Rama and Sita's life. The so-called public opinion, which is nothing new, of Ayodhya, of earthly Ayodhya, begins to wonder if Sita, who stayed with Ravana for so long, back in his reign in South India, if Sita was still immaculate. And the whole town was talking about it. And at that time, we're talking about many millennia. Probably 10, 11, 12,000 years in pre-Diluvian times. Since the Great Flood, in theory, occurred around 9,000 years ago. So Ramayana would be something that would have happened, according to some historians, in a time before the flood, but others place it in a time just after the flood, which would be 8,000, 7,000 years. It doesn't matter. At that time, the so-called public opinion was already very strong, and Rama and Sita were victimized by this process. Why? Because the main pedagogical concept of the education of certain beings, demonic beings, who have bodies that metamorphose, who achieve things or accomplish feats that we humans can't, like those described in the Ramayana, these beings were educated by something that would later be called Dharma. A dharma is a kind of sacred obligation that each being has towards their species, and if that species is divided into existential segments that organize themselves to live better in society, the commitment that each one has to that varna, that is, to the caste, to the social class into which they are born, is how these beings have organized themselves. And this public opinion of all these social classes involved had honor as their most important value, as a concept of life, the supreme value of existence, and the emperor should be honorable, and the empress, his wife, should also be honorable. But the quarrels of the time, disturbed, worried, the standards of sustainability and of honor of Rama and Sita, and the weight, the pressure on Rama, who was perhaps the fairest government that ever existed, here on earth, and from here on earth, that government would also have been extremely competent. Effective and decent towards the other quarters of this creation, it is said that the synarchy, because Rama ruled with sages, the weight of this process required Rama not to consider Sita to be worthy of being his companion. And Sita feels this pressure and decides to take her own life. She enters a kind of sacrificial bonfire in front of all the members of the monkey race, of the gods, so-called gods, who observed that problem from the various levels of the neighboring universe, and of the humans and hybrids who converged on the day Sita had set to make a decision in face of what others had decided, whether she was honorable or not. And she decided to enter the fire to show her dignity, her purity. And to everyone's surprise, the god of fire himself, called Agni, removed her, showing her purity. And from here on, a mixture of contentment, but also frustration. By Rama's hesitation, settled in the psyche of Rama, Sita disappeared. Ramayana says that she returned to the forest with her children and perished there. But there's other news, that she would have done a samadhi. And making a samadhi is not a simple thing. A samadhi has many meanings, one of which is that you consciously withdraw from your transitory body, since your self is housed there. The body dies and your self goes somewhere else. That would be a simple concept for us to understand. The phenomenal process of samadhi, and Sita did hers. Not always what today is called samadhi existed. This began to emerge when special beings began to exist on earth. They lived so long that they themselves set the limit for their lives. The understanding of samadhi for us Westerners is not easy. Sita, Rama's companion, in her sadness for having been kidnapped by Ravana, and thus for the population of Ayodhya to be seen as someone tainted, since it was believed that after so long they had had a relationship. This kind of situation led Rama to have a bifurcation in his life that had nothing of interest. He had to pay attention to the obligations of honor that as emperor he needed to have towards the people of Ayodhya, and the Brahmins demanded it, that an honorable emperor could not have a wife about whom there could potentially be any uncertainty, and another kind of honor. He had to account for the honor of himself and to the honor of his wife Sita. Since she was innocent, had done nothing wrong, and he chose to between this or that honor, seems to have been one of the reasons, or perhaps the only reason, for a being of Rama's stature to practice samadhi under circumstances that are difficult to understand, and even more along with the entire population of a city, that he was able to do this because it is not every being, human or hybrid, who can practice samadhi. But anyway, it's a page that is not over. It's a page from a book that has not been finished. There's a touch of sadness. There's a lot of regret why the story of Rama and Sita ended the way it did. But the Sarayu River welcomed the great god Rama and the entire population of Ayodhya. Although for us Westerners, I say again, we have no way of understanding a samadhi practiced with these characteristics. This is how Rama and Sita missed each other in a marvelous plot that they both lived, but in a script that ended up getting in the way of that plot. And the end of the plot was not good, because Sita was nothing more than an avataric incarnation of Sri Lakshmi, who is someone considered to be one of the entities of the Tridevi. We have the Trimurti, using the Hindu expressions, formed by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and the Tridevi, formed by Lakshmi, Parvati, and Saraswati. Rama was an avatar of Vishnu, and Sita an avatar of Lakshmi, consort, as the Hindus understand, of Vishnu, and Rama failed Sita. And Sita, in doing her samadhi, developed a feeling of what we humans call disgust in relation to the whole context that surrounded her, in particular, that surrounded her on the day she entered the fire. But Agni removed her from there, as if showing everyone that this was an injustice. She was pure. But since even after that there was hesitation on the part of Rama and the society of Ayodhya, when Sita disappeared from everyone's sight, Rama has still lived a long time, some millennia, in his solitary role as manager of a synarchy. But the pain of having lost Sita in such conditions, in addition to all the other embarrassment it caused, created a split between the gods, especially because later on Sita's spirit would unite with Ravana's, who, when he kidnapped her, respected her all the time. He never laid a finger on Sita, because Ravana in the Ramayana appears to be a bandit, but he is a hero to many, because he never left any of his Rakshasa brothers behind, and there's a lot of heroism in that. And Sita then gets involved with Ravana, and this has created a situation that is still not well managed by the aristocracy around the Trimurt. And Rama, feeling all of this, couldn't stand it. One fine day, and this is reproduced in many of Ayodhya's works of art, on the banks of the Sarayu River, which is the river that bathes the city of Ayodhya, Rama decides to practice one of the asanas he, as a profound yogi, did, And from there he decided to practice samadhi, the so-called Mahasamadhi, and leave this world consciously, because those beings with this hybrid condition were able to do so. But the entire population of Ayodhya knew that their beloved Rama was going to do this, and they couldn't bear to live without Rama. And that's it. A large part of Ayodhya, its population, with the support of those who stayed but who also wanted to follow their master. However, whether it was because they couldn't do the Mahasamadhi or because of other reasons, part of Ayodhya's population went in. They went with their Lord. They entered the bank of the river Sarayu, and they all stood under the water of the river, and there practiced the Mahasamadhi. And so this strange story of Rama and Sita ends. The unfolding that I mentioned have never been signaled. This is a story that still has many pages to go on. Ramayana is not yet over. Various psychic pockets of ancestral spiritual memory hold problems that have yet to be resolved, and even today, in modern times, when this story seems like fiction. But she has an unresolved reality, and humans hold in their genome the entire library of unresolved issues, as well as all the achievements of humanity's ancestral eras. We will understand all this better in the future. Thank you for joining us until here. This story that happened in one of the most enigmatic cities on earth, the beautiful Ayodhya, that stands there as a witness, silent today, to a past that we cannot understand.